Working as a doula, there are a few ways that you can work, and it can be kind of confusing. It's actually a question that I get a lot about what is the difference between working on your own, working with a group, working with a collective, what's an agency, and I thought it'd be a great topic to tackle for a series of blog posts. So of the doulas that completed the survey, the majority were independent doulas, that they worked as an individual. So what that means is they run their own business. They're entrepreneurs. They have the sole responsibility of running their business. So they do everything. They do marketing, advertising, they do social media, they make all the decisions, set the services, figure out their website. Now they might hire people to help them along the way, but really all the decisions are made by them, by the owner, by the individual doula, the independent doula. And they also make all the money, so they don't have to share a cut with anyone. They have to find their own backups. They have to do all their own work in developing relationships. And that's the independent doula. Now, some of the pros that were expressed had to do with money, that you got to keep all of the money. Also, you're your own boss and you get to make all your decisions. So those were some of the main pros that doulas expressed for working as independent doulas. Now, some of the cons also were related in that everything's up to you. So you have all the responsibility, and sometimes that gets hard, having to make all the decisions and do all of the work on your own. The other con that was mentioned several times was having to find a backup doula on your own. That an independent doula does not have a built-in backup relationship. So those are some of the quick pros, cons, and the definition of an independent doula. Now let's talk about working in a doula agency. Okay, so if you hear a doula group or a doula agency, I'm going to call them agencies, but that model is one where there's an owner or a couple owners that manage the group, that created the business, and they have doulas that work under them. So doulas that work for them, in that as people inquire about doula services, they are either matched with doulas that work for them, or there's an interview process that takes place. So every agency does things a little bit different, but all of them collect a portion of the fee that is paid by the client. So just for easy purpose, we might see a couple hiring a doula through an agency for $1,000, and maybe 20%, say $200, goes to the management of the agency, and the other $800 goes to the doula that performed the services. So in an agency model, most of the business decisions are made by the owner or owners of the agency. They also are responsible for things like marketing, advertising. Most of those business topics are done through the owners of the agency. So if you are a doula working for an agency, you do not have to have the burden of finding your own clients, because usually that's done through the agency. There are some agencies that allow their doula members to work for other agencies. And I've seen that several times, where if they can't book the doulas that work for them solid, then they will allow them to work with other agencies. So it varies from agency to agency, as well as the fee. Now, of the doulas that responded to the survey, there were some pros that joining an agency. Number one would be having all the built-in business decisions done for you. Number two, having that backup relationship in place. So for most agencies, backups are provided through other doulas in the agency. So if you work through the agency, you don't have to worry about finding another backup or setting that relationship, always being the only one on call. That support system is built in. And having that support system was another pro to joining an agency. Having other people that are working towards the same goals as you are was a pro for the agency. Now the cons have to do with sharing money. So if you are in an agency, like we spoke, you'd have to split part of the fee. Not having control over some of the decision makings is both a pro and a con. So it's a pro because you don't have the burden of making the decisions, but the con is maybe decisions are made that aren't exactly the ones that you would make. And then the other con, what that a couple people mentioned, was sometimes there's a differing of opinions, and that also kind of goes with the decision-making process. So that is working for an agency in a nutshell, where you are working for someone who owns the business, who takes part of the fee to provide. The fee is used to be able to spend money on marketing and setting up the business so you don't have to. And then, of course, you've got that support system with everybody else that works in that agency. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to doula collectives. So doula collectives, I'm going to define, and some people call them groups. But what I mean by doula collective is a group of doulas that work independently, that have their own businesses, but they come together to share support for backup relationships, for marketing, and other type of business decision collective. They're using their own groups to sort of find clients in a shared way. So they might hold events like a doula tea or doula speed dating for the collective. Now, collectives don't take usually a portion of the fee. Generally, the fee is managed by the individual doula that gets the client, but often the collective will require either volunteer hours on a regular basis or a membership fee on a regular basis. Collectives also come together to provide training, like continuing education, for the doulas in the group, which was definitely one of the pros that the doulas in the survey mentioned as being part of a collective. The other pros would be having that support system, that backup structure, and the shared decision-making for marketing. Having that shared marketing was a pro for being part of a collective. Also, still having the ability to make most of the business decisions on your own because you're still your own boss in a collective. Now, the cons that we saw had a lot to do with the shared decision making. So we heard from several doulas who said that sometimes there are some differing opinions in the group. It's often hard to meet with the other members of the group, and there might be some jealousy as far as who gets what portion of clients that come through the collective looking for a doula. So sometimes that can be a tricky situation that can make the collective maybe more of a con than a pro. Okay, so we talked about the three primary ways you can work as a doula. One, as an independent doula, you're your own boss and keep all the money. Two, you work for an agency, so you have to split the fee, but all of the marketing and business decisions are done for you. And three, as a collective where you're independent doula, but you work with a group and share some marketing and advertising and some support for backup. There are other ways that you can work as a doula, not as common, but just wanted to list those out. Maybe as a partnership. You might be a volunteer doula, or you might work for a hospital, or you might be the owner of an agency. So more information is on the blog. I'd love for you to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, subscribe on our YouTube channel. That would be so great. And I love to connect with you and hear your comments. So you can always submit a comment in YouTube as well. Please look for the next blog and the next video. There are going to be 5 videos and 5 blogs about this series. So look for the next 4 to come. If you subscribe to the channel, that'll be an easy way to make sure that you're up to date with the videos. Take care and kind of confusing. It's actually a question that I get a lot about